Well, hello there, everyone. Here to show you the full class story 2 coloring activity right here. As you see, is like from for what I was talking about, from the first one, it's basically about the story about from whenever that if most of us for whatever school district that we went to, if it was like what you call like Catholic school, if it was a public school or any other type of school district it was. But basically, talking about with my story here is showing right here is like with me right here. This was me inside the classroom. It was, I may mention before, of course, that from whenever I was growing up, that you had the way I went to school was is that from like kindergarten to like the third and fourth grade. I think the fifth grade, especially the fourth and fifth grade that I was in a regular class. It was with all a few other kids over there at especially the fourth grade. Part of the fourth grade that I can remember being in the classroom with a few of the kids. Say for the regular education it is. Instead the special needs education it is, and knowing about that, whenever I was in the classroom, that they would do like what you call like a special, projects and stuff like that. It's like if it was related to science or social studies, or if it's math or anything like that. But basically, that you have right here is I went ahead and drew right here is like an example of say of a classroom, and would say with about at least 20 or more kids it is. And at one time that I was in a regular class at one time, and then they wound up moving me, of course, to special needs class, and that occurred right whenever that I got into the middle school. That I can remember I was in a regular class at one time, like I may have mentioned before, and until they looked at my IEP report, of course, and then they were saying now like that knowing about plus. It was like there was a teacher there, of course, that worked on it. She's like, well, you ought to go and be in my class because you need extra help, of course, with your schoolwork. It is, and I really just take that in a lot of ways. It was all about the fact about that. Yeah, whenever children need more help, I guess if it's called like what you call it's like borderlineism, it is for borderline disorder. It is that. Basically about how the brain works. It is with anybody who probably think about with most special needs students, it is special ed kids. It is that knowing about if you're going to be in any type of classroom to where that they give you schoolwork in some classes that they say in order to be able to do it, and then you get punished if you don't do it, whichever it is. But I can remember that. In the middle school that I was in a regular class at one time, and then this was back in like early 1997 it was, and whenever I was in a regular class, it was before I got moved to special needs. Is that knowing about that I can remember that you walk into the classroom, and then you would meet the teacher. It was that they had it to where they did separate teams. I don't know if all middle schools or all junior highs, whichever it is, that the grades, 7th through 9th grade, it is 7th through 8th. I think 6th through 8th grade, it is. If they all do the same thing, but basically that whenever you start school, that a lot of times that they go by the teams. That it's like you have team C or team A or something like that. Say in the middle school, and with these different teams, you have these different teachers. It is, and then. Knowing about, I can remember a lot of the kids, of course, whenever they were starting school, that they would ask, it's like, well, we have homework on the first day, it is, and some of them would kind of look at you and laugh, like, well, we'll just see, or no, that all depends, whatever it is. But anyway, but talk about with the full class story is knowing about with the way I would probably have to say about it is I could tell anybody here that I was in a regular class mainly because they say that I just think that a regular class was just too hard. That whenever I would walk into the classroom, I think a couple over there at the middle school, it's like I could tell anybody it's at Barnwell Middle School. It is that that it was like that. Yeah, that with the school, I would walk into the school, and then they would give you folders, and then they would give you like tell you what you need for your class project is, and I kept thinking about it a lot of times, from like we say it was with the regular class that they would want you to write a paper, and during that time I can remember that I I would be like, I don't want to write a paper if it was about anything such as science. And I could probably tell anybody here that this is about what my handwriting more likely would have looked like at the time it was. It's like your big, if it was a science project or anything like that, it's like the type of subjects, of course, I took in the 7th and 8th grade. It was not algebra, but it was more likely, it was a life science. If I can remember right, I had life science. This was more likely what my handwriting looked like at the time. And with anybody who probably think about in the middle school, that if they would take any type of science, I had life science and of course earth science. And anybody thinking about it, it's like that. That's pretty much how I spelt. You say for any projects I'll be doing it is, and besides you say with the pen it is, and anybody probably think about so talk about it as like study. It's like it would be kind of sloppy, kind of like this, study about rocks, and then and I could tell it. I could be honest with anybody here. Whenever I was in, even whenever I was in the high school, that a lot of times that I if I were to make a mistake, which anybody would probably think about, if I were to say if I say the and or something like that, the and then say but, and if I would have said but or rocks, if I would have meant to put rocks, I would just mark right through, you say the word, and then go ahead and write the correct answer about right here. But of course, in like most classrooms, that they have it to where if you make a mistake, then they just want you to mark through it and right up above, the correct for what you were trying to say on the page it was. But of course, that would have been, of course, what the handwriting would look like back then. But then now, I had the time, I was wondering, anybody probably think about what the handwriting looks like now is basically talk about with science it is. Maybe if I were worked a little bit hard, and of course this would more likely what the handwriting would look like, and maybe with life science. But I would probably tell anybody here that, and maybe even have it. It's like you got the camera on record here, is knowing about. It's like about our the subjects. Subjects, it's like about the subjects. Are they about all the fact about are they really about the fact about, hey, if you don't know the answer to it, then more likely you'll work it out to where we can find out the answer to it, or if it's all the fact about that well, if you don't know, then there's your grade. And it seems like that's just the way it is, that they give you a certain amount of time, of course, just to do an assignment to is, and then from there, and then it's like that they give you work to do, and then some teachers, I even hear that of course that they may want you to read a book, and then they want you to write a paper later on about what you were reading about. And I could probably tell anybody here that if this would have been me right here sitting at my desk right here, that knowing about that if they would give me work to do, if it was reading a book or if it was writing a paper or anything like that, then it's like that knowing about with me though, that I was that type of person to where I was like, well, actually, if I can remember a couple times I would just do whatever I had to do, of course, and then turn in, or maybe they may say something like, well, you didn't do it right, whichever it was, or you did okay, but like in the middle school, it was a lot of times that the work that they gave you credit for just trying, it is. But the whole part, of course, about the full class stories, I could tell anybody here of knowing about that, being in the classroom with at least, see, I'll go ahead and use like what you call like the purple, but being in the classroom with like maybe about 20 or 30 more people, made me real nervous. And why did it make me nervous? Maybe because of the fact about that being around other kids, of course, kind of made me nervous. And on the other hand, too, that knowing about that, after being picked on for most of my childhood, it is of knowing about that, there may be a kid in the classroom that, I think a few of them that even knew me, ever since elementary school, that they didn't like me very much. I could probably tell anybody here a little bit about that you have some kids that seem like they don't like you, even if they have class with you, that a lot of times that they don't like you for whichever reason. And then knowing about that whenever, if you were to be in the classroom with them, a lot of times that seemed like hey, like you don't belong in this classroom. It is. But on the other hand, too, that knowing about that I was put in I had a couple of times to where I would go into a regular class, and once or twice I think one time that they said that there was somebody, there's people there that had a certain desk with their names on it, whichever it is, that they had desk with their names on it, and then they would say that that's my seat. It's like, that's my seat. And knowing about that, well, the paper said, apparently I had gotten the paper from the teacher saying the paper said that I had to come here, I think for like seminar, I think it was for a seminar class for like a study hall, type of, event that was going on, whichever it was. But anyway, but then that was the middle school, though, that I could tell anybody here about, being inside of a full class. It was that I had that to work, especially in the study hall classes. I could probably tell anybody here, especially in study hall class, that once or twice I would stand at, that the teacher would want you to stand up in front of the classroom, it is, and then talk to them about something, if it's anything related to what you like to do, and of course what's your favorite thing, or something like that, what's your favorite topic, and they would call somebody, they would have like what you call like a desk right up here. But this right here, I went and drew right here, of course, is memories, of course, from the elementary school. But then from the middle school, it was that they had, somebody would stand up in front of the class and talk to them about something. But I can remember once or twice that I would do that, and people would kind of look at me, and it's like, yeah, with my glasses on, it's like, look at me with my glasses on and be like, okay, dude, what's up now? But like, okay, dude, I was like, well, and like, it's like I talking about, it's like, try to work the crayon, and you try to show them something. Anybody, I could probably tell anybody here that I had my difficult times, of course, even using the overhead. If most of us know, the overhead is like something that they shine through the glass, you see, through the machine, and then projects, of course, on the wall. It's like an assignment it is. And a couple of times that I would do that, and then, but on the other hand, too, that knowing about with the teachers, so sometimes with the teachers that they say that, hey, where's this work, or where's that work, whichever it is. But anyway, that you have right here is I talk about with the full class story. This was right here was me, and around the classroom it is, and with anybody who probably think about it, I think about this about almost every day, for the past 15 or so years, about the fact about that maybe if I could have tried harder, to try to maybe get back into a regular class, and maybe if I would have worked harder to study more about maybe the important subjects it was, and apparently that things could not work out, and I could probably tell anybody here, tell the cousins, kids, the grandkids, it is that really is is school really about the fact about that. That this is who we are. We come to school, of course, just to learn the facts about for whatever that goes on, or is it the fact about respecting each other for who we are? And of course, we come to school, of course, to learn these certain things. It is, and a lot of times the teachers, of course, at the schools, were not usually. Sometimes that they would or were not, want to get your feedback. I remember at the elementary school, if you were not, the age of 15 or older, then a lot of times it's like you got to go by the teacher's rule. It's like, well, if they say that you got to do this in the classroom, then you got to do this in the classroom. It is like I make the rules, you don't, whichever it is. But anyway, But whenever I was in school, I could tell anybody here, whenever I was in school, it seems like I could, say that I was that type of person to where I did not want to do work, like I may have said a number of times it was. But was I that type of person to maybe I want to get to know others? I want to make friends with other people, other kids in the classroom. It was, yeah, I was, and I wasn't very too talkative. And a lot of times, like nowadays, it seems like people maybe wonder, why is it that you don't talk too much? And maybe I can explain why of knowing about that. Back those couple years ago, like people probably say about, that was several years ago, but the way I would probably think about, I'm like, yeah, what does that mean? It's like back then, back in like 1991, that you told me that, of course, that one of these days that I'll understand about the fact about importance about life science it is, about study of maybe technology, and on the other hand too, that knowing about that with the things that, of course, we can learn, it is. The things that we can do and the things we can learn of knowing about the fact about whenever kids come to school, it is. It seems like a lot of times is that all the fact about it's like anything you can do, I can do better, or I can do anything better than you, whichever it is, or is it the fact about that, hey, we come to school to learn and then knowing about, share with the class about what you can do, it is. But on the other hand, too, like my teachers usually say that going by the state requirements, it is for any subjects, of course, that you have to take, and then if it's related to science, or if it's history, or if it's math or sociology, or any type of subjects it is, and any of us would probably think about that if the teacher gives you homework, I'm sure anybody here would probably say that homework was never my favorite. It's like I'd probably tell you, anybody maybe think about it, I could tell anybody here that I think I was in study hall classes a couple of times because I would not do my homework. Homework was not my favorite thing, and I don't know if I would say that it's my favorite thing now. But on the other hand, too, that knowing about with homework, it is that with most of the time with our homework, it is that any teachers would probably say about that yeah, well, it's up to you if you want to get the grade or not. That a lot of times that's usually what the teachers would say. But of course, with what I would have to say is that knowing about is like if get the students to understand about the whole purpose of our homework. That if gives you, if they send you home with homework, and then I guess say they gives you more time, of course, to do the work and then turn it in. Whenever you were supposed to turn it in, it is, and. My definition, of course, for homework, I could tell anybody here that back then, whenever I was going to school, they did not have, too many of the computers and, of course, iPhones and, iPads and, of course, these scientific graphic calculators or anything like that. So any student can maybe think about, it's like, well, my parents will get on to me if I don't do my homework, or, actually that, I'll do my homework during study hall, and a lot of kids would probably say about, hey, that's usually how it goes. They go ahead and just do it during study hall, but then of course if we have an assembly later on, then more likely I guess you're just going to have to say that there's going to be a field trip coming up these next couple of days or whatever, and if you got homework that you got to do, then more likely you're not going to be able to go on a field trip, it is. But anyway, basically the story about talk about right here about you say the full class story that knowing about reason maybe why I was in special needs classes, special ed classes. Anybody probably think about LD classes. That with the classes it is that knowing about that, I kept thinking about that. What's the difference? Well, the classroom is more likely bigger than compared to the special needs classes, and the work is harder. And I really think in a lot of ways that more likely that is true, that the work is harder. But some people tell me that they help you out when you ask for help, and then of course that they may give you more time if you ask for more time, but more likely that you may have it to where that in regular classes that they give you work to do, then a lot of times you have to go up to the teacher's desk. It is, just to, for extra help it is. And, I remember a lot of times in the schools, I don't know about every school, but with some of the schools, that they had a backup teacher. If there was a teacher's desk right here, and then it could have been a teacher's desk at about right here, and if there was a kid in the classroom that had a question about, work it is, about, some work assignment it was, that more likely that, hey, that there'll be another teacher there that would be in there to help the kids out with whatever work that they had. But I can remember at the elementary school I went to, of course, that there was one classroom that it's like, hey, you have two teachers, but then, of course, I only have one. And so it's like you have one year we have two teachers, and in 1 year it's like talking about you only have one teacher, and thought about it was kind of neat to have two teachers. But anyway, but talk about it's like with the middle school and of course with the high school it is of knowing about that I remember that it's like talking about it's like in high school though that I had the most difficult times of course in math, like about maybe a few of us here that you say that yeah, read the letters on the board, such as what it calls like I can maybe pick, it's like say a math problem it is 3 times I'm going to say 3 times 8 it is. It's like talk about it's like a few math problems, and of course if it's any type of spelling problems it is, and anybody probably think about that write a few things of course on the chalkboard it is like that what is the answer to this question, like what is the answer to this, what's the answer to that. And whenever I was going to school, of course, a lot of times that the teachers would tell you something and mention something, and I could tell anybody here that whenever I was going to school, that with most kids that they would be doing the work, and sometimes they say it would be pretty hard, and knowing about that sit there. If it's like you see right here you see students, but let's just say if I were to draw the teacher, and about right here it is like go ahead and use like Rich says the green, but go ahead and draw the teacher, and about right here. Just say if the teacher were to be standing in the classroom, it was, but then the teacher, and then the next thing you know, it's like that anybody probably think about whenever the teacher talks and talks and talks and talks. It's like talking about it's due on Thursday. It's due on this day. It is, and knowing about hey that you were supposed to turn in, and a lot of times though that I kept thinking about that with most teachers though that with quite a few of them that if they would be talking about assignments or something like that, then it just seems like half the time like well that's like you hear them talk and talk and talk, and then it was like you hear them talk and talk and talk, and then talking gets boring a lot of times, and like I could tell anybody here that now since I'm growing up that anybody probably think about like my parents said that by the time you get into college it is that you'll realize how important of course those subjects are. It's like, but like with me though, all I know is like with most of the subjects that they are pretty hard, but on the other hand too that with like a lot of kids that they go to school, of course, maybe because they have to go to school and they may not turn in, they may not study hard enough, but on the other hand too that the best answer for knowing about that anybody probably think about, if I can go through time, of course, and travel through time and maybe get in a better grade, well, more likely that's not possible. But on the other hand too, to keep it in mind and knowing about teaching our kids, of course, about the important thing, of course, about school. No matter if you wear a pair of braces or if it's glasses or whatever, is to know that you're in school, of course, you're safe, to concentrate, of course, on your future. It is of knowing about how big or how small you are. It is knowing about, it's like for the full class, of knowing about with most kids that treat each other kids fairly, of knowing about for what we can learn. But Alright, and that is talking about it's like so far as like today is like talking about it's like for the school day it is. Like for good morning class, but alright, and that is talking about say for the full class story 2 coloring activity.